with what price we pay for the glory of motherhood, said Isadora Duncan. No matter what time in history, a mother will always be a mother. And so, once upon a time, the amphitheater in Mathura was filled to the brim. People from far and wide wanted to see the wrestling match between Chanur and Kanha. The news that Kanha and Balram had killed the demon elephant that Kans had sent to welcome the brothers to Mathura had spread far and wide. Kuvalyapid was a dreadful beast, and for a 16-year-old Kanha to have killed him, it was just astounding. Kans was eager as the crowd to see the boy who had been part of his nightmares even before he was born. The news of Kuvalyapid's death had only made Kans more worried. He had tried everything to kill this boy, and the boy had just refused to die. Now, Chanur seemed Kans' only hope. But what if Chanur should die? Kans called upon his commander and asked him to surround the amphitheater with his guards, who had come to protect him from Magad. If Kanha survived the match with Chanur, then he was to be put in chains and thrown into the dungeons. Kanha could see the guards standing amongst the crowd. He knew what Kans was planning. It was not a very clever plan, but then Kans was not a clever man. He was just an evil man. The arrogance of power. There was nothing more dangerous in the world than an evil fool in a seat of power. The roar of the crowd almost immediately seized his attention as both Chanur and Mushtik stepped into the arena. These were men the size of mountains. They were also men who crushed so many men in the arena. Kanha glanced at the stage atop the amphitheater. Kans sat on his throne, obese, pompous. It was a fact that sooner or later, the outside and the inside of men began to look similar. You became outside, but you were inside. For a moment, their eyes met, and in that meeting, there was a clash of abject fear and the wrath of God. Kans felt a cold shiver, and in the midst of the hot afternoon, he felt a cold chill. The bugles blew loud. Balram and Kanha entered the ring. Chanur and Mushtik looked at the little boys in front of them and smiled. This was going to be a walk in the park. Somewhere inside the entrails of the cold, dark palace, a maid ran towards Devki and Vasudev. They had been allowed to remain unchained for a while now, but still under guard in the outer palace. The maid reached the old couple and shouted with excitement, "Kanha and Balram are here. They are going to fight Chanur and Mushtik in the ring." Devki stood up with fear. "Oh my God, no! Those demons will kill those children, my Kanha. He will be killed, he will die." Vasudev held her back lovingly. "We have to be brave, Devki. If the prophecy is true, then it is today that we will find out. If not, it was never meant to be." Devki collapsed into Vasudev's arms, her grief too intense to allow her to speak. Back in the ring, Chanur rushed towards Kanha, and to the delight of the crowd, Kanha seemed difficult to pin down for the mighty beast. He was just too quick for a big man. And then before Chanur could turn around, Kanha was on his back. He had taken Chanur's neck in his supple arms and twisted it all the way around. The mighty wrestler fell to the ground like an oak tree in a forest fire. The crowd was on their feet, clapping and roaring. Kanha could see the guards were approaching him, tearing through the crowd. Kans was shifty on the throne. With agility of a panther, Kanha sprang towards the stage, and using a silk drapery that adorned the area under the stage, Kanha sprang up and like lightning was in front of Kans. Finally, they were face to face. The tormentor and the savior. Kans leapt from his throne to grab a sword from his side, but Kanha was faster. He grabbed the very same sword and tore the Asur's head from his torso. The entire crowd screamed in unison and then fell silent in unison. Kans's head rolled down from the dais, down the steps, crossed the marble landing, and into the arena. Never before did so many people gathered together keep such silence. You could have heard a pin if it fell. But for Kanha, it was not about a boastful victory. It was about freeing the people and his parents. He was there to emancipate and not to proclaim himself a ruler. There was no victory speech to make. There was no revenge to enjoy publicly. It was done. The whisper of Kanha's victory spread through the palace, and very soon it reached Devki and Vasudev. Devki looked at the door, wondering if the guards were still out there, wondering if Kanha would come to see them, if he would walk in at all. Then the doors were flung open, and Kanha stood there, framed within the open doorway. Vasudev held Devki up. He did not want her to collapse. The boy looked at his parents, and the parents looked at the boy. So much had changed. Yet, nothing had changed. Devki freed her hand from her husband and walked to her son. She was shaking and trying her best to be steady on her feet. She did not want to blink because she was afraid that this could be a dream. And what should happen if she opened her eyes and found Kanha gone? But most of all, she did not know what to do with the son. How should she greet him? "I know who you are," she said. "I'm honored you chose to be born to me and your father. But how do I? I want to fall at your feet for the God you are, and I want to hug you for the son you are. Would the God mind if I hug the son?" Devki spoke in a soft, angelic voice filled with the pain of years of separation. Kanha could barely speak himself. All he could do was cry. He bent down and fell at Devki's feet and kissed them. There is only one thing greater than God in this universe, and that is a mother. And there's only one blessing greater than the blessing of God, and that is the blessing of a mother. Bless me, Mother, so that both your son and God can feel the bliss that only a mother's blessing can bring. Then Devki kissed Kanha on his forehead. "You are my son, blessed by all the mothers of this universe." From where Vasudev stood, he saw both the mother and son hold each other and cry tears of joy for the union and regret for the years lost.